everyone. Happy Wednesday. How's it going? I'm your host, Ashley. Welcome to Archetype, sponsored by Dell. Hope everyone's having a lovely Wednesday night. We are back since we were gone last week, but here we are, and we're going to pose our little fairy alien fauna thingamajig today, so that will be fun. Gathered some little Quixel Bridge scans and see if I can build out a scene in Marmoset today. Dawn, hello. Your relevance? Hype? Yes, super hyped. It'll be lots of fun. So yeah, we'll have a lot of fun with it. I was just actually playing around with some of the color stuff because the embankment stuff that I was looking at. Kevin, hi Kevin. Some of the embankment stuff I was looking at, it's like mossy green, like water embankments, and I don't know if I'd be able to do it in the stream, but part of me was like, oh, it'd be cool if like he's like hovering to try to catch like a fish or something, or like, I don't know, like alien fish from the water, so he's like hovering over like a kind of like swampy water. But because the environment's very green, I thought I might change his color to like a red, but I did change it and he kind of looks like a demon, so maybe we can come up with something. But I thought maybe a warmer color might be kind of fun to contrast the green environment, but we can play with that as we go along. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and close this guy out. Irrelevance, this guy looks so cool. Thank you. If you want to watch how he was made, you can watch the other archetype videos. If you are a first-time joiner, then welcome and hello. I'll probably pose the tail after, so I don't need these guys. I probably don't need the wings in the initial posing. I can always probably move with like a lattice or adjust the wings after the fact. It's just going to be a lot easier to mask and smooth these in different ways. I think using a lattice tool or like a kind of bend deformer will work better. So I really just have to focus on, that's it, just the creature itself, which is kind of nice. So because of that, I think what I'll probably do is I'm going to bring in a tree branch that I'll have him like kind of hover on. So let me look at where this asset is real quick. So I'll just put this guy into here. I usually don't pose or put anything in, but there's not that much of him to mask. So I think we'll be okay. It's always a little annoying to remember to like constantly be moving the tree bark. It's going to be huge by default, but that's fine. Just scale it down. Synth, happy Wednesday. How's it going? Yeah, we can kind of put it maybe somewhere like that. Try to think about how big this branch is in comparison to him. I want him to look and feel fairly small, right? And we can use a lot of different effects later when we render to make him feel even smaller. Do I actually want him to be... kind of wondering how I want to pose him. Do I want him kind of like hanging? Maybe he's half hanging. Probably should have done some drawings, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. I think it'd be like, I really want to utilize, I want to have him grabbing with his feet, but also maybe hanging, but also showing that his extra little extremities are made for, grappling almost like a sloth or like a gibbon. So I'm trying to think of a pose that would be cool to utilize, and maybe it's kind of like a Tarzan pose kind of thing. Because my reference here, we have these cool like hanging upside down could be kind of interesting. These guys kind of hang like this, so I'm trying to find something that could be kind of cool where it really shows off his versatility in like how he can move. So we'll see. We'll play with it. But now that I have this guy, I can go ahead and again, I'm not going to worry about the feathers. I'll just hand place them and move them later. I think that's just going to be easier. Could be wrong. So a blade pose that could work. Yeah, we'll see what we do. I'm trying to think of something that would be fun, and I want him to feel like kind of curious, and I want him to look, because a lot of like smaller animals also kind of act very curious. So yeah, we'll see what I can come up with. And again, he's super low res. Everything is low res, so he should be pretty easy to move around and manipulate in that way. And an easier way to kind of break up his head and everything is I can probably hide this guy for now. And we can make, again, his head and probably some of the neck area all the same. Remember, I didn't retop this, so normally I would want like a loop going all the way around, but we're just going to have to make do with what we got. So go ahead and like that. And then one thing we could probably do is loop that. Oh, I meant to do it on both sides because that would be easier. Turn on symmetry for a second. Cullen size, say maybe a 3-point perch reaching down. Yeah, I'm thinking of him like hanging downwards and like looking down onto something, because the idea is he's a glider, right? So he'll be high is kind of like what we're trying to achieve. There we go. So I do think you're right. I think something like that. Now we're just gonna shrink. Oops. I lied. We're not shrinking yet. Now we can shrink. There we go. So now I can shrink this. Keep shrinking until I hit his elbow. Group that. Keep shrinking. It doesn't have to be perfect, because again, I don't have perfect topology for this stuff, but like I said, it'll be fine. So now we have that. I think these might be part of the same. So do that. And this again is just so that way I can easily grab this, right? And then I can mask it, and I'll get a nice smooth transition there. Extra polys going on. Always nice to turn on double with this stuff, just in case, because usually that's why that stuff's happening. And again, the hands, I can, I'm not going to worry about freezing each individual one. Just trying to get a guesstimate onto everything. I'll probably have this part move, this part move. Put a little finger there because I wanna make sure I grab that hit. There we go. And then this I'm fine actually with. Always split this off into two legs. maybe. That should be fine. Again, when you have good loops, way easier to group and be able to move that stuff. That's why that topology normally in any other kid scenario would be super important. And something in this hand here will grab this branch and he'll kind of like outreach this way and kind of be like leaning out that way. So be kind of facing maybe. And we're done. Awesome, we did it, guys. No, he'll probably be facing this kind of general direction. I think the biggest thing is I want to get the length of this wing first. And then we can kind of go from there. So now I can grab. I forgot to auto group these so that way they're not symmetrical anymore. So we're not grabbing other sides. There we go. We'll do that to this guy. Oh, which part? What are you? Just hanging out by yourself over here. We'll find where that attaches to. There we go. Okay. And same thing here. Auto group that. And auto group that. Ooh, don't auto group that actually. Just remove. There we go. Didn't want to grab all those nails. Cool. So now I can grab his arm here, mask it. And kind of find where that's going to rotate from. And again, I'm just inverting and smoothing the mask back and forth to get kind of like a much easier transition with this. And I can fix anything that feels a little funky. Move that down. And you can see how far we can actually kind of stretch, because I think I want his hook, I think, to hook right over here. I think that could be kind of fun. I think that would work. So again, I can mask this guy. And again, I can put that pivot point kind of there to figure out how far. And then looking at his legs and stuff too, seeing if I do need to bend his arms back in, or if he's going to be, you know, like really straight-legged, because I want his limbs to grab, or one of his limbs to grab over here. And then his other one, I think, would be cool if it just kind of hangs. And then this arm here could easily grab on the other side, so that could be kind of cool. To feel if we can get him feeling like he's kind of stretching out. Another thing that I'll do is I'll probably twist his torso so that way this kind of feels more upright. So I think grabbing this and oops. And again, a lot of this too, I'll have to move a little bit, so you know, you're not going to get the rotation perfectly, but the idea is I really want that scapula to feel like it's getting pushed, kind of pinched, right, as he's like hanging. Whoa, I don't think that's the right direction. Trying to make sure all this feels like it's going in a line. So his fingers don't feel broken. And again, for the sake of posing and everything, I'm fine with going in here and adjusting this stuff to make sure that, you know, it's not like warm. Because you don't want that. And really good selling to get the feel of the pose is going to be in that head turned up. And rotate. That always helps, doesn't it? You can see that. Oops. Again, a lot of it's getting the idea there first, making sure that your idea, you know, works before you commit to all the things. You don't want this to become like a bunch of work. And then realize it actually doesn't work the way you intended it to. I think we can grab a torso here. Irrelevance, sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, I think that's right. The words are tiny on my screen. But said, I never realized how much gesture and posing applied to creatures. I'm going to do some gesture studies of bats. Yeah, gesture works for all realms of design. You know, it's not, oops, I'm moving his little feetsies. Oh, I gotta go back. Go back, his fingernails got lost. But yeah, gesture in general is super, super important to capture the feeling of a creature or a character, or, you know, a creature that is a character, whatever it may be. And, you know, referencing real life is always the way to go. So one thing that I used to do, that I still do, it's just hard. I don't do it as often. I don't have as much time. But going to the zoo, if you can, or going to like an equestrian center, or basically anywhere that has animals in motion, is a really awesome way to hone in those gesture skills to make sure that what you're doing makes sense with. And it's very Spider-Man like thing. But yeah, to make sure that like it all makes sense and fits with like how your creature moves, because selling your creature is going to be selling its gait and the way it, you know, walks around and the way it navigates its world. You know, like bats are super interesting because they sleep upside down and they hang a lot, so they have to have certain musculature that, you know, adheres to that kind of lifestyle, right? A Chef Muslin on YouTube, sorry if I'm butchering that name, is asking, are there any tips for making creature skin details? I mean, again, the biggest one's going to be reference, and also understanding like why are there skin details, right? Most time a skin detail won't look right because it's in the wrong spot, because you don't understand why a skin detail is where it is. You know, why do we have wrinkles? Why do we have like palm lines? Well, the reason is because when we move our palm a bunch of times, we make that motion super often, right? And we repeat it so many times that we develop skin folds in certain areas. And it's not perfect every time, which is why you get slight variations of everything. But it's super important to, you know, realize that skin detail comes from, again, how a creature moves or its mobility, or, you know, is the area that they live in super dry, or is it armor like a rhino? You know, like a rhino has skin folds for a very unique reason. I actually think I wanted to grab. I want to grab the other direction. I want to grab the other direction. Yeah, so a lot of the first initial concepting of skin detailing is really asking yourself, you know, why are you putting skin detail there, right? And if you can answer that your own question to that, you're already one step ahead of the curve for stuff like that. And a lot of it too is just studying real life, studying, you know, if you're doing a creature that's very ape-like or whatever it may be, or very bat-like. In this case, it's very bat and ape, right? So I would have reference of, which I do have here, you know, looking at these cool details on the muzzle, right? And giving that kind of breakup and seeing the wrinkles and why is it stretching the way it stretches. Like these details are awesome. But they exist because they pull their lips up over their nose to give this like crazy menacing face. But you know, I mean, look at that skin detail, right? Like, why are these folds where they are? So it's really about giving purpose, and not just adding noise for the sake of noise, right? I hope that makes sense. But everything has a story, right? So when you're detailing, I feel like he's pushing up against that. That feels a little better. So yeah, making sure that everything has that story to tell, I think, is really important. A part of skin detailing. It's not just like, go get skin brushes and go crazy. Like, I think a lot of it is about making very active choices as an artist as to what and why, right? Always ask yourself why, regardless if it's skin details or musculature or, you know, sculpting something. Whether it's a creature or a character, a lot of it you should be asking, you know, why am I doing this thing? Why does my character need this? If you can't come up with those reasons, then chances are you haven't thought through what you're doing enough yet, you know, which isn't a bad thing. We all do it. We all just want to start like detailing like crazy and, you know, go bananas, but most time we need to kind of step back and, whoops, I rotated it. Kind of take a breather. I hope that makes sense. That was a very weird artsy rant for how to make skin detail, but I do think it holds true. I think the best artists kind of, you can see that in their work a lot. It's all about telling a story at the end of the day. Do you have any, someone says, damn, that pose looks dope. Thank you. Appreciate it. Your guys' comments fuel me. Relevance is asking, do I have any tips for being more conscious when you work? I find I get lost very easily and forget to plan things like wrinkles and how they work. Yeah, it's one of those things that I had to work on a lot as an artist too, because I tend to be, I still am pretty fast at what I do, but I'm almost sometimes fast to a fault, where I kind of have this mentality of do it quickly before I'm like, oh no, just do it right. Sometimes, which will easily reflect in your work. But I think being more conscious comes with practice, and I know that's always like a kind of an opted out answer. You're like, just do it. And that's not really what I'm trying to say, but it does take an active mind. You know, it might be something like, you know, if you watch shows while you work, try not to, you know. You get lost in detailing something. Doing this is actually really helpful. So even if you're not actually streaming to anybody, I feel like explaining what you're doing and why you're doing it, like out loud, almost as if you're teaching it, is actually super helpful. I find that teaching, I almost get just as much out of teaching as my students do, because I feel like I'm a much more conscious artist, because I've had to do this where I sit and I'm working on something and I'm explaining, I have to explain why am I doing what I'm doing, right? And I think that's super relevant. So even if you don't have an actual stream, you can always pretend that you do. Be like, my name's Ashley, you know, you play pretend. And I'm trying to think of what's going to be, what would he do, right? Like, what would he do with his leg? Like, would he let it hang? Would he, like, kind of tuck it up? Part of me wants to, and see if I don't know the answer, then the real answer is I should open up the Googles and look up, like, apes, like maybe gibbons swinging or something. And so that's the other thing too, is like the more you can ask questions. Yeah, see, look at that. Look, there's even one that shows you the animation. But this one's like pretty relaxed, right? This is pretty similar to kind of what we were going for. This guy's got his little, I love his little tucked up feet, right? Some of them are having pretty tucked up. This one's interesting. It's pretty loose, right? The arm's down, but the thing is up, so that might be kind of cool, because we still have to put his arm down, so maybe his arm will go in between his like little tucked up leg. Again, if I don't know the answer, I'm gonna look it up or try to find a way to find the answer. But yeah, so being a more conscious artist just does take time, it takes practice, but I do think actually talking to yourself helps. You might sound crazy, you know, if you live with someone, just warn them that you're like, I'm going to be talking to myself about some stuff. I make noises sometimes when I do stuff, you know, make it fun. It's important to make it fun. If you're going to keep doing it, you gotta make it fun. And so, yeah, I think a lot of that is. His butt got kind of squished. This is where rigging, I'm like, oh, rigging is nice to be able to do this once and then just be able to pose whatever I want, but I can't do that. I'll have to fix all the pinching and stretching and stuff that's happening. Yeah, well, making crazy facial expressions, that's exactly right. You know, you scrunch your nose to be like, oh, if I like bare my teeth, what does this do? Right? And that's you being curious, and that's you answering your own questions, which I think is a really great place to start. And it's the same thing when you're posing or when you're you know, coming up with repos or any of that stuff. It's all very, very applicable. So one thing, oops. Make his leg feel like ready but also relaxed, because that's what a lot of this is. I think a lot of that has to do with his thumbs and weird toes as well. Kind of trying to relax these. You know, to make something a little more relaxed, you can switch these together. A little bit, and kind of angle one. Still trying to make sure that, I think gravity-wise, his feet are just hanging with gravity as much as possible without, you know, breaking his ankle. He could probably technically reach the very tip of that with his hand, but I'm not sure if I want to do that. His arms just might be free. Yeah, really trying to feel the pose. I mean, obviously I don't have 6 limbs, but you could easily, you know, if I wasn't streaming, I have a pole in my, up the stairs. I probably would go hang on it and like pull my weight and feel, you know, which way am I swinging? Where's my weight at? What's being pulled? What's being pushed? You know, what's feeling strained? And like the more and more you do that and like get interactive or get active with your characters and posing, like the more realistic they're gonna feel. He could do a little like T-Rex thing, like he's gonna go and grab something. And I kind of like, I like the gesture of having this arm come out. You see its head, and I think I want his other arm to be down and relaxed. And then this leg is the more stretched leg, which means this hand I think would maybe be better if it was like pulled up. So I think that's what I'll try to do. Maybe it'll be pulled back. So maybe I'll pull it back like this. Complicated little pose for such a tiny little fauna. Right, so now we have squished on one side and squished on the opposite side, so it gives it a bit of a contrapposto without, it's not the true contrapposto, but again, having that dynamic. If one side feels squished and then the other side is kind of elongated, that works too, but I think in this case this is more dynamic for him, because I think the gesture helps it go the other way. I could do some, I mean, I could, part of me is like, oh, do I want to move the leg like way down so it feels like he's really stretching, but I just don't think, I think this would be fine. I might pull it up a little bit more and maybe make it relax a bit more. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with that leg, but again, I'm going to put in all the pieces first. I'm going to follow my own advice. Don't get too caught up until you have everything that you need. You put everything in about the spot that you want it to be. And we can figure out the little details from there. And we can have his, we'll roll up his, you know, fingers to give him cool, creepy thingy vibes. Yeah, now this one's gonna hang down more, right? So we'll set that here. We'll kind of hang his shoulder down, so that way it really feels like one side's kind of bunched and relaxed. And we can move some stuff around. You know, he's organic, so nothing really wrong with that. That elbow a little bit. I like the flow of that so far. I might tuck his leg even more up. Part of me wants to do that. I don't know. Not sure yet. But from here, I want his, you know, all of his arm to kind of be very relaxed. This pose should also look like something that he doesn't even know he's doing, right? Like when you watch a monkey swing, if we had to try that, we would fall flat on our faces, but they make it look ludicrously easy, right? So I want him to feel like any movement that he's doing up here feels like super normal. This is all super normal for him. So trying to get that to feel basically as natural as possible, I think it's kind of the goal. I want this to hook a bit more. I'm gonna bring it up, but then I'm also gonna pull his whole body over and down a little bit. Because there's a little bit of room here to do so, so I can try to bring this for a little bit more. And I might actually try to pull him even farther away. That's feeling a little better. Chunk. Move it a little bit. And then with his leg now I can outstretch this a bit more, which is kind of what I wanted to do in the beginning. So that way we get a very stretched side and a very squish side. The more we can stretch that leg, the more it'll feel like he's really pushing up against the tree, which is what I want. And again, it's like, I don't want him to have a completely straight leg, so in this case, I'm just gonna move the tree branch in a little bit. Right? That's an easy solve. Doesn't have to, you can move the tree. It's fine. Go. It's feeling a little better. So that's kind of like a cool overall pose. And then remember, he also has wings, so that's gonna add a lot to making it feel like he's like grabbing and possibly getting ready to jump off and glide, or do whatever it is he's got to do. So I think I want to push this maybe a bit more. I'm gonna try to squish it up there by like a lot and see if I like it. I don't know. Because you could also still maybe I changed my mind. I'm not sure yet. Again, you can see I'm looking at it from very far away because I'm trying to see, again, reading this silhouette of the character and feeling if that makes more sense. I think that does, actually. I don't think I mind it. I don't know, him having such a tight back thigh, I just wasn't feeling it for some reason. I think because, again, when I look, like, there are images of them like holding up their legs, but most of the images that I look at, they're super loose, so I think it just feels more natural if he stays really loose with it. It's fill-in. Says, can you tell me please how much does an aspiring artist earn per month now? I mean, that very much varies depending on what you're doing. Aspiring artists, when you say aspiring, do you mean they don't have a job yet and they're just trying to do commission stuff? Because it varies a lot from industry to industry. Comic Legends also asking, will the wings be created in symmetry or in pose? I'm just gonna take the ones that I didn't bring into the scene and I'll just pose it after the fact. That'll be fun. Okay, Sato coming in with good ideas, saying that I could have something in his hand. I do like the idea of him holding something. I think that would be cool. So I think in his like tucked up one, right? I think that would be cool if he had something. We could have like a weird alien fruit. It's like a creepy fruit bread. Eater. And again, I gotta relax all of his thumbs and things. Junior character artist. Yeah, it really just depends. I mean, I think you're looking anywhere between like, oh, well, you said a month. I don't really know what it would be a month, but you could easily do like 20 an hour, depending on, you know, your 20 or 25 or more. It really depends on the industry. Like if you're game, film, like practical effects, you know, you're probably looking at somewhere around there. Also, junior artist says, you know, rigging tends to pay more, right? Like technical industries tend to, like tech artists tend to make a little more because it's a more wanted job because most people don't want to do them. You know, whereas, you know, everyone wants to be a character artist, so sometimes they'll take advantage of that. I kind of like the, oops. I'll go with that. Kind of like the weird one finger, like hanging out weird. I meant to pose the other one, but I'm tempted to kind of keep it. And I might just bend this one maybe a little more. That's creepy. And then yeah, we'll have him maybe start grabbing something with his hand. I like that idea in Crusader. Yeah, no problem. Sorry, it's not more specific, but it does vary a lot, but that's a range that you could start with. Comics Legend is any advice or words of encouragement for beginning artists looking for work in the games industry. Many of the job listings are senior or lead artists with a lot of experience. There are a lot of positions that are senior, lead with experience. I've also, I always try to stay active to see what's, you know, what's on or what's happening. With jobs and such, and I think it's important to note that there are a lot of senior positions, but there are also just a lot of character artist positions, and those character artist positions, they might not say junior, and they might say something like need X amount of experience in the industry, blah, 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 blah. But apply anyway. If you feel like you look at, really, you should look at what they're looking for. You know, if they're like experience in Maya, do you know how to you know, bake maps? Do you know how to do XYZ thing? Quite literally XYZ thing. You know, and you feel like you fit all those qualifications and your portfolio's gearing and ready to go, there is no harm in applying, you know. I think that's the biggest thing is you've got, and also it's true in any job as it is in this industry is, you know, you can't just apply to one and hope for the best. Sometimes it takes months to hear back. Sometimes you don't hear back at all, and that's also part of it, right? So I think a big one too is don't just apply to one spot, apply to lots of spots. I think it's super important. Going to events and conventions, do not underestimate the power of saying hi in your field is super, super useful as well. You know, and I know that's harder for some people who maybe aren't in the base. It's part of the reason why I moved to, I was in San Diego before, so I didn't move that far, but it is one of the reasons I moved to LA because I realized that the industry is just, even with work from home, is still here. And so it's really important to, you know, I go to a lot of Gnomon events. Gnomon has tons of really cool events where, yes, you're listening to people talk, but you're also meeting, you know, other Gnomon students, or you're meeting fellow people in the industry who are also there to, you know, learn or to mingle and say hi. And I think stuff like that goes super unnoticed. So trying to find like games clubs or game jams, you know, in your area is super useful. I think a lot of networking like that, being on chats like this are really cool. Like Cynthia's asking about the ZBrush Summit. I totally went to the ZBrush Summit. Had a great time. I picked up some really cool ideas from, you know, the talks and met some really cool people. Got to say the highs to, you know, my students, which was super fun. And yeah, I have a great time at all those events. And again, you'll meet all sorts of people. So I met some friends, some people that I've never met before, but they worked over at PlayStation, and they know another friend of mine who knows another friend of mine. So like over time, it just becomes a very small industry. And you'll realize how small it is once you start going more and more to these events and locations, which is really cool because we have a really great community of artists that you know, most of us are not going to bite your face off if you come up to us and ask us questions. I'm a teacher, so I feel like it'd be weird if I didn't like people coming up and talking to me. So I think it's important to just, you know, say hi. But yeah, keep your portfolio open, you know. There's a lot of portfolio reviews at events like that. There's a lot of portfolio reviews that even happen online that you could try to find. And I think all that stuff is super, super valuable. Or even just advice from, you know, people who have been in it. I don't know what he's holding yet, so I'm just gonna stop that now. But he was holding like a giant fruit, poisoned apple. Cool. I think I'm just gonna fix the hips here. So they got a little squished. And we can add some more just movement in general. I will also be at Lightbox, so if you guys are in the area, drop by and say hi. I'll be around. You guys know what I look like, so kind of hard to hide. But yeah, I'm not trying to hide from you guys at all, though. Please say hi if you guys are there. I'm doing a talk with Gnomon. I can't remember which day it is, but I'm gonna try to be there all the days and also go see all the other awesome artists that are there. There's some really cool events. If you can't catch it in person, definitely try to catch it, you know, online or something. It's a really cool event. I love it because it's very artist based, unlike something maybe like not that there's anything wrong with like Anime Expo, but a lot of the events are like, check out this VTuber, and I don't care about that. If you do, that's cool. But as an artist, I'm like, I want to see cool art, and I want to go buy books from Ryan Lang, and go watch James Gurney paint in front of the Lightbox letters. Fetter says I like stop motion animation. Me too. I wish there was something I could do that didn't require making an entire puppet. I do not know how to do that. But Chris Sickler was actually one of the judges at the ZBrush Summit, and he's one of my favorite. He's not really known as like a stop motion guy, but he does stop motion with his puppets because he creates really beautiful kind of little like puppet characters for children's books and advertising, and that's kind of like his art form, and it's super cool. If you don't know him, he goes by Red Nose Studio, so you can follow that and you'll find him, and he has some of my favorite work. He has some amazing character work, super unique. So Ellen said I could 3D print a zoetrope. I have a 3D printer, so I could. Thank you, Ghost. So I could print a zoetrope. I just don't know what I would make. It'd have to be something ludicrous for me to want to print it. Okay, I think I'm happy with this. We still gotta pose the tails. I gave him 2 tails while the stream was on, because I was like, why not? He's got 6 limbs anyway. It also would help with his like ruddering, right? As he's like a little lighter. And we still got to pose his wings, and then off to the render race as we go. Cool. So I got very distracted with all your wonderful questions, which thank you, by the way, you guys. So now we'll go back to T-pose. There goes his eyeball. There's his head. And okay, say I don't remember to save. I will. Someone's asking, will I attend DesignerCon? DesignerCon's cool. I'm not sure if I'll go yet. I went once, and it is a cool convention. I don't go to all the conventions. I go to the very particular ones. I might not make it down to that one, because it's also in December, which usually is like a lot of family time and stuff like that. So not sure about that one yet. One more Bevel, I like your name. Says loving the silhouette view. Silhouette view is super useful, and yeah, I think it helps a lot to sell. It's very busy, but it's cool. Like that kind of view right there is pretty fun. So we'll have to now add his tail feathers. Oops, turn off symmetry, guys. Oh, and I told myself I would save, and then I didn't. I'm so smart. Saving now. Save it as posed. And this is where you could also go in and add all that cool extra musculature now, and tighten up muscles and loosen muscles, so that way it really feels like he's, in that pose. That'll help sell it a little bit more as well. So I'm going to. I still want to keep the groups, but I need to move them separately. So I will. Leave this number, I guess. Tail is quite honestly the laziest part of this whole thing. I didn't do a great job of maintaining. Oh no. Oops. It's okay. You guys will forgive me, right? As long as something cool comes out of it. And I don't know if that's supposed to go with that one. I'll just assume it does there. Now I can I'll grab both of them just to start with, but just in case I need to move them individually. I'll double or just turn on dynamic so I can see the and we could do something where now that we have something like this, give it a feeling like a little bit more motion. I mean, I guess there's not that much topology, but we could just kind of pull it down like that. I was gonna be all fancy and be like, we can use the curve tool and blah blah blah. But I was like, no, actually don't want to do that. You just do that to give it a bit more life. And then I'll grab his. It's not really his tail. I was kind of thinking it's more like a quill that helps hold all the feathers together. So if I had more time, I'd make sure all the feathers would attach to this, so it kind of can sprawl out and do stuff. But I'll probably just make it a dark color and make sure that it kind of just hides, and it's there as more of like structure than being anything super accurate. So it's not technically like a tail, but I figured it would help sell his feathers more. Now we have his wings. And honestly, I think actually for his wings, I'm just going to take them and split them off. So they're just going to have to be a right and a left. So that way I don't have to deal with accidentally masking or doing anything weird with that. Oh, Feder was also asking, why don't I use Blender? I do use Blender. I love Blender. Blender's great. I don't use it for rendering on the, I'm gonna go and use Marmoset for today's stream. This should just almost fit back in. Because Blender's usually a bit more of setup. That's really the biggest reason as to why I don't utilize it as much. But I do use Blender on a almost daily basis for a bunch of other projects and things. And it's a great tool. So again, that's why we had his wings don't quite reach the end here. We'll have them maybe fold up or something. Again, just placeholder. Getting it in there to start. And again, these feathers are super low res, so we can do stuff like this really easily. And then what I can do is I'll just mask, I'll grab all these. I love 2D animation. Toon Boom's really cool, and so is TV Paint, I think, is another really popular one that's used. I use actually, so just because I'm not like a 2D animator, but I like studying it. I will use Clip Studio. So I've used Clip Studio before to like do little animations and stuff, and that's pretty cool. I know I'm cheating, I'm making it smaller, but how do I always do this to myself? Give it wings. It'll be cool, I promise. 4 hours later. These stupid ones are here. I would auto group, but I'm so afraid to. So many feathers. There's also some of these I'm like, you could just delete them and pretend they don't exist. Like these guys, very tempted to get rid of them later because they're not really relevant. There were a lot of feathers in the corner. I probably could have done spread wings first and then, but whatever. Do I have a favorite animated series? Ooh, that's tough because I love me some One Piece. I really love Arcane, like Irrelevance mentioned. Arcane's one of those really masterful pieces of animation. It's pretty incredible. What else do I mean, I have a bunch of Dragon Ball stuff. I love Dragon Ball. I like a lot of anime. I love the OG Disney's what is it, Robin Hood? The animation for that's wonderful. Same thing with Jungle Book. Anything that has Milt Kahl's an animator, chances are it's probably amazing and gonna be my favorite. So that's just to maybe name a few, but I am a big fan of the animation stuff. Cowboy Bebop's awesome. So Combat Legends is, if these wings were for game, would they be single-sided poly? Yeah, these technically are still single-sided, I just turned on double. So technically, yeah, it would be a bunch of cards. So you could turn these easily into little cards and get something out of it. I'm not going to spend so much longer on the wings. My goodness. Just driving me nuts that I can't pull that up there. But it's okay. I might just squish. Look at my white tree. I'm just going to squish this tree. I just want it. Just want it up here. I know it doesn't make sense, and get it. The idea is cool. Okay. And then I'm just gonna get rid of, I don't want to, but I'll do it. I'm just gonna auto group this. Woo, colors. And then I'm just gonna get rid of some of these that just don't make any sense. There's a lot of them, so I'm like, just can go in here and move stuff around a little bit. I would not place these by hand. So, ooh, favorite Ghibli film. I like Nausicaa, even though technically that's not Ghibli. That's before he was Ghibli, but it still counts. Nausicaa's my favorite. Roblins also asked about stylized stuff. I definitely think because of Arcane and Spider-Verse and stuff, and like what the Ninja Turtles did, that style, or Love, Death, and Robots. Like I think Stylized is coming back into popularity because I think also anime is getting more popular than it used to be, which is cool. So yeah, definitely. I think there's room to push into that realm of stylized, now more than ever. And I would definitely love to do the same. I'd love to see more stylized stuff. I mean, if you guys watch the stream enough, you know that I love working on stylized stuff. This is the more realistic creature that I've done in like a while. So, you know. I work on mainly stylized character stuff for the stream. The jam. This guy. I'm gonna turn these all in. This is probably too detailed for what we're doing, but like detailed, but also done terribly at the same time. I don't know how it's possible. I just want them to get out of the way of this bottom. And then these guys up here. And then this way. Yeah, I'm just kind of making something for the render sake to look cool. But yeah, Stylized definitely is big. I mean, it's always there. I think a lot of people just don't look hard enough for it. But I do think it's more popular than it ever has been for like a while. Which I think is great. So yeah, Studio Ghibli, if you don't know, is Princess Mononoke. He's coming out with a new one, I think, in December called The Blue Heron, or The Heron and the Boy, or something like that. Yeah, Nausicaa's one of my favorites. Spirited Away is another classic one, but I love Nausicaa. Nausicaa's amazing. Okay. I'll call that happy and done. So I'm going to save that. And then we're going to, I don't think he's that heavy. Let me see. 5 million? That's not bad. How heavy is his head? His head's 10, so we'll probably decimate that guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decimate probably his head and his body, just because it's easier. And then we can bring it into Marmoset. And there's not so many assets on him. Like normally you could split stuff up into very specific like materials and stuff, but I think in this case you should be fine. I also painted that highlight on. I don't know if that's gonna work or not. Whatever. We'll see how it goes. I don't really feel like painting over it because it's over his eyeball. But we're gonna go to the decimation, and we say using Keep Poly Paint. We'll go ahead and process that. It shouldn't take too long. Spirited Away is a great movie. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Arcane was probably the coolest one that's come out in a while. I love the first season of, or the first Castlevania, not this new one. I haven't bothered to watch it yet. But Castlevania was really great. The animation's wonderful in that. The fight scenes and fight choreography is awesome. Character design's really cool. So that's another one of my faves. The animation for Cyberpunk was really cool. I just think the story fell a little short for me. But the first 4 are animated so well because Studio Trigger's good at that. Always been very good at that. Yeah, Paprika's a really good one too. Akira is an obvious one that's also, it's done on ones. It's incredible. But yeah, Paprika's really good. Boy and the Beast is another one that I liked a lot. That's a good movie. Sword of the Stranger. I love Sword of the Stranger. I think that's Studio Mappa. Or no, it's not Mappa, it's Bones. So they also did Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is also really well animated. Really good series. They're all coming to me now that I'm not sitting here like working on stuff. Who's my favorite character from which one? Favorite character ever? Favorite character ever? I definitely don't have a favorite character ever because there's too many that are too good. Because the one that comes to mind that I really love the dialogue of is Trevor Belmont from Castlevania. It's just such a solid show. Other favorite characters? I love Frankie from One Piece. Yeah, the sword fights in Sword of the Stranger are amazing. That end sequence, that end fight, and then the music, I almost cry every time because I'm just like, it's so beautiful as far as like art goes. I just get so emotional because it's so well choreographed. Like when you go back and watch it, you can see when they cut each other and then when the ending and they like start to bleed. Like you can watch it and see it, and it's just so cool. And then plus the music, yeah, I get like super emotional. So I'm like, this is art. It's so cool. So yeah. All right, that decided. Down to drumroll. That's fine. I love that the head's 10 and the body is 5. It is half as much. There's probably no reason. Well, I did do little tiny detail for the render that's probably useless, but it's all good. So using Keep Poly Paint, process this guy. Yeah, I just watched the Blue-Eyed Samurai one. That one looks pretty interesting. We'll see. I'm curious to see what they'll add to it that'll make it feel super like unique in itself. Jason Shear worked on it. He's an amazing look dev artist. He's done so many amazing key pieces. Oh, we gotta add a fruit to him. It's gonna be the worst fruit ever. It's gonna be ugly fruit because I'm like, I gotta get it out. But yeah, what am I listening to as far as music goes? I mean, we don't get to pick. Our host gets to pick our lovely ambient sounds, which are great. But I actually listen to just a lot of on Spotify. They have a channel, or I don't know what to call it. That's called Coffee Beats, I think. And I like Coffee Beats because it's just chill. I've been listening to a lot of music lately that has no lyrics. Because again, I think, when Irrelevant was talking about stuff, you're talking about like staying conscious or very in your art. I feel like it helps to not have, especially I love to sing along to songs, and like I have plenty of songs that I love to listen to, but oh god, don't mention Grave of the Fireflies in this. This is a happy environment, okay, Sato? You can't you can't bring those vibes to the stream. Do not look, it's so sad. No, it's a good anime. But yeah, it's so sad. I was not ready. Um, but yeah, so when I listen to music, I tend to listen to something that's very, that's very chill, um, and very ambient. Because I like to keep, I try to keep I like to put music on so I'm not distracted by anything that I hear in the background. But I also don't want to be distracted by the music. I think it's the classic 2D animator James Baxter, who he was asked once like, "Oh, how come you don't like? Do you listen? What kind of music do you listen to when you animate?" And he was like, "Do you think I have a brain that can do two things at once?" And he got like really upset because he, I guess, supposedly he animates in like just pure silence because he. And it is that kind of art form where it's like you really need to stay very active in thinking like what you're doing, especially with something like animation. But you need to stay very active in what you're doing. So it's super cool. All right, so I think everything's pretty much broken down. I think the only thing I will do is I'll merge all the TFMs just because it makes it easier for applying materials. Now it's being a little chuggy because it's not rendering that low poly anymore. But now we can go ahead and take this, and it would probably be good to name these, but ain't nobody got time for that, so I will merge. I'm going to merge down some of the mouth bits, though, because they're all just going to be wet, slimy things. And, oops, what did I do? Already that many? Why is it so many? Oh, okay. No. Go. Yeah, that angle will be fun. Wings are. I could probably merge all the wings back down, but there's only 4, so I think we're good. All right. I'm just making sure that my list of things that I'm exporting is not so ludicrous that it's going to be annoying to do anything. But I think we're good now. So now I'm going to go ahead and export. Let's make a folder. One set. And we're going to turn it into, we're going to do an FBX. I'll just say alien posed. And save that. And we can just say visible because there's some stuff that's not visible that I don't want to bring in. And all that should be fine. And then we just wait for that to export. It'll take a little bit because of the heavy polys on his face and body, but that should be fine. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, video game soundtracks are a really good one, actually, because they are meant to be engaging, but unintrusive. You're totally right. The Halo soundtrack, I used to put that thing on repeat all the time. Really good soundtrack. But there's plenty of really cool game soundtracks that are super easy to listen to. Absolutely. Especially because they're designed for that specifically, right? So animation is hard because it does take that constant thinking, but a lot of art does, so you know. Ooh, Hades soundtrack, yeah, definitely listen to that one. The Bast, no, is it the Bastion? What's the other one? No, the Bastion one's really good too. I think it's that same guy. That guy's just a miracle to Supergiant Studios. I think it's Dan something. I don't remember his name, but Comics Others asked when I go to Marmoset, I don't need UVs. Correct. I don't need UVs because I'm bringing in Vertex paint. So if you don't want to bring in Vertex paint, then yes, you do need UVs. Or if you wanted to do any like super crazy texturing, I'm just bringing it in and just like lighten it. So I'm not using like a roughness map or anything like that because we just don't have time. We have 30 minutes left to render. And so, yeah, normally in another production, I would do, you know, texturing. You could do like a passive something on it. You could export out like a cavity map and get kind of a roughness map and stuff like that from it. But, you know, I didn't set up the character this way. We're just bringing it in and we're just gonna render it and see how it goes. Just keep it super simple. It's really about just lighting it in a cool environment and adding some extra cool pieces to it. I found more pieces of geometry that I want to add to it, but I don't need to add it to this scene. I can just add it to Marmoset after the fact. So that exported. So let's go ahead and grab Marmoset now. We have had a thing on the stream where sometimes running Marmoset, it'll be chuggy, or I might come in and out. And if that happens, they'll let me know. So, but if I do break up a little bit, it's because of that. But we should be good. We tested it and it seemed to be fine. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and import in that model. Boop. Cool. And by default, you can see it doesn't come in with poly paint. That's because if you double click on it, there's the albedo over here. You just need to save vertex color. So this is why making sure that everything's kind of merged down into stuff is kind of nice, because then you don't have to go in and click like a thousand different things to be like, change the vertex color. I'm trying to click on my fingernails. So this is the part where you put on some boring music or like as I change all these to vertex color. Why aren't you selecting nail? Give me the nail. Give me it. I don't know why it won't let me. There it is. I don't know why double clicking on that was just like, nope. Good luck. Okay, cool. Oh, his tail. Color. And then the tree is actually got a texture, so I can actually use a albedo. Place that in there. Right. I'm not crazy. Did I actually texture something that I wasn't supposed to? Oh, are there like 3 of them? Oh, why did they all copy? There we go. That was weird. Roughness. There we go. And if we wanted to, we could add like displacement and stuff, but because I'm trying to make sure that we don't, you know, die on stream, that I'll probably just save that for later. So I'm just making his head a little rougher, so it feels a bit more like skin, and then his eyes we can make much glossier. I'm trying to remember. Oh, cold back faces. There we go. I want to just make sure that the wings and stuff, you can see the front and backs of them because they are single-sided. So I'm just fixing the back face of those. And then again, we can up those would be very diffuse. Something with his wing here. So for the sake of rendering this guy with something like this, I usually just go for something pretty diffuse because again, I don't have a lot of texture maps that I'm working with here. So we can go ahead and pop open something that's maybe, you know, outside. So we can maybe look at and this I won't use the lighting necessarily. I'll use it just as like a background to get some ambient lighting in. But really what you should do is almost drop that brightness completely. And then we're just going to add in a light. And maybe we'll do one from the top here. So it's good to get a read first on your 1-2 values, meaning you're just strictly what is light, what is dark, right? So if I look at this, you know, what do I want to cast a shadow? What do I want to be in darkness? And right, what camera angle are we gonna do ultimately? Oh, I forgot to give him fruit. Oh well. You know, so if we're doing something like here, I might change the shadow shapes, but I think for this, I think we'll want to do something maybe kind of like that is kind of my idea. Maybe looking up from him, and we're going to add like a cool bokeh effect to it. So looking at it, I want to try to find a little bit of his eyeball here. So there it is. Right, so when you look at these shadow shapes, you know, you want to be like, does this read the way I want it to? And it's good to do something like this rather than just like cranking up, you know, this like ambient background, right? Because then it just blows everything out and there's no shadows. But if I need to start upping, right, the ambient light, I can, and I still have those initial shadow shapes that I'm looking at. So I like to make sure that this works first rather than relying too much on the HDR in the scene. So I might rotate this a little more. So let me get some cool cast shadows on his arm down here, and this is kind of in shadow. And then you get some nice shadows from the feathers. Right, like this is pretty cool. Even that's pretty cool because most of it's now in light. So you also want to think about stuff. You know, do you want this, if you want to be like more mysterious and like creepy, right, you would kind of do like a rim lighting like this where 70% of your image is actually like cast shadow or dark? Or are you trying to, you know, show off your sculpt, or are you trying to, you know, portray a scene or something like that? And then that's when, you know, you would do something where like maybe it's mostly in light. And the fall off's actually pretty good, but you can always change this stuff, and we can also change the color to be something maybe a bit more like greenish, slightly yellowish green, so it feels a bit more foresty. And then we can add the bottom where our shadow is, we could add a point light or an omni light, same thing. And right now it's going to be really big, so you can turn down the brightness of that. And we can make it kind of like a bounce light of the forest floor or something like that. So we can give it a bit more saturation. You don't want it to overpower your shadow shapes or anything like that, but it's nice to give some sort of bounce effect. That might be a little too colorful, but you can go kind of bananas with it, depending on what you want to do. But I think a little bit of color isn't hurting. And you can always turn this stuff on or off, right, to see kind of like how it's affecting your scene. And then I'm going to grab, I have it somewhere. There's a rock wall thing that I found. The names are always such a mess, but I'll find it. Is this it? This might be it. But I'm just gonna add some extra stuff to the background and see. If I had time, I would also add maybe like an alpha. I mean, I could do it really fast, but you could do an alpha so it looks like it's speckled, so it feels more like a jungle lighting, which could be kind of cool. Which I think you can add to these. I haven't done it in a hot minute, but you should be able to. Okay. So I have this like rock face that I wanted to grab. And the reason being is because when we render, I wanted to have something in the background that we could basically blur. So that way he feels smaller. Because again, like the scale of the scene is important to sell the character. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab this. It's gonna be ginormous, which is fine. Let's get that down. That's like this cool little rock face. And I won't really know where to put it until I get a camera in there and take a look at it. The other tricky thing is I kind of want it to be. Probably don't want the spotlight to cast a shadow on it. So I'll probably have to light it separately to our character. Because it's just supposed to give the illusion that like stuff's in the background. You know, we could also do something like just adding stuff. Again, you don't need a lot to like sell. It's so big. Okay. You don't need a lot to sell, you just need enough. So this is like where that movie magic thing kind of comes into play. Is really we can make this kind of like cool mossy scene. Beautiful. Thank you, music. What's good to start too is in your camera, there's a safe frame. So we can pick an aspect ratio here to make sure that whatever we're viewing is going to be within the lens. I think for the sake, we can do 2048 by 2048. So I'm just going to do a square render. Synth is asking, do I use a 3-point lighting system? You can. You totally can. It works and is a standard kind of for a reason. But it's about like every use case as to whether or not you'll need it. I might actually change this to just because then I want to see what shadows that kind of gives me. Again, turn down my HDR again. Oh, and then also, if you want to, make something feel more cinematic, usually the flatter the field of view. If you go really crazy with your field of view and have this like super pushed in thing, we could do something slightly like that because most macro lenses have kind of a weird field of view. But I think actually 45 was fine. And now we can adjust the focal distance here. Here's the things. So something like this is a little too extreme, but something sort of like that. I'm not sure if this big tree thing is working yet or not. The biggest thing is you're trying to fool that things are far away in the background. And you don't want that cache out because then it just makes it look like things are not far away. So the goal is to make this thing doesn't far away. And you could do something like an image plane or something like that. And I don't mind, maybe there's like a slight cache shadow or something. I think I might go back to the spotlight just gives a better shadow, but now what I can do is I can add another light and I can adjust how much of that is being. Maybe we can try to do something where there's like a again, this is kind of that movie magic thing where you're just trying to kind of move stuff into frame to get something that's going to feel cool and make it look like it's busier in the background than it actually is. Like that's kind of the goal. And then that light 3, I can adjust that brightness on its own. Because you kind of want that ultimate control to make it feel like maybe it's a nighttime type scene. Which is always kind of half fake anyway because moonlight doesn't give off that much light, but we can kind of play with it. Trying to reframe up on the character here. I always forget how to do that because it's not F for frame. I don't know why I always forget. There's like a focus or something that changes, but just trying to see which angle I would actually want. I do still think that this angle is fine. I might have to move over the giant thing in the background. But yeah, as far as like setting up scenes, like I'm not, I mean, clearly you can tell I'm not an environment artist. But the goal for this stuff is just to get something, and then in Photoshop later, or if I'm, you know, adjusting stuff, I can kind of tweak or add the things later to get the feeling that I want. Try to get this space decent quickly. Should be able to pinpoint. You can also do that effect post effect, and sometimes it's more effective than trying to dial this in, but it's fun. Yeah, Colin, I mentioned the canopy shadow thing. I don't think I finished my sentence talking about that, but yes, it would look super cool, but that is a whole nother step that we just don't have time for, but that's okay. And then the question is, after all the rendering is done, do you do post-process in Photoshop? And yeah, that would be the goal. So a lot of this is not like super pretty final rendering or anything like that. It's just getting an idea, and then all this stuff later I can fix in post. And I'm gonna turn on some fancy stuff. Turning on local reflections always helps a little bit, just to get some more shine out of things. And then there's a ton of cool, like really post-process type stuff. So once you get what you want, you can also change. I wouldn't slide these too crazy in the actual render, but it is nice to be able to kind of adjust these things. Like, so you can add grain in the program, but again, something like grain is so easy to add After Effect wise that it's not usually worth doing. Mine's flaring. Maybe more vignette on the right there. And again, we could also, so if I like this camera, for example, I could just make a new one. Someone was talking about, you know, adding you could add fog. Boom, mystified. Again, some of the stuff, like, don't go so crazy with it. Like, at first you might be like, oh yeah, this is so cool to add, like, atmosphere. But a lot of stuff you want as editable as possible for, like, leaving this program. So again, a lot of that stuff you can kind of save for post effects. I know I made it that terrible aspect ratio. I might go back to your classic 1920 by 1080 because it's way more cinematic. And you can get much closer with still getting a good. Also, this, I'm just going to rant for 1 second. The fact that the border of the safe frame, I can't see this border, drives me crazy because it feels like I can't see the full frame. And that's just a me being me, that I'm like, I don't like it. I want you to fix it. And I don't think they do. Or they might not. Let me change. Again, it'd be kind of cool to try to get a feeling like as if you're watching this from far away, like a Nat Geo type thing, right? So you have like a super flat camera. Just narrate David Attenborough on top of it. Should be good to go. So a little bit. You get less headspace. I could probably frame a little better. And then maybe that lower light's a little too bright. I do like it what it's doing to the tree branch because it kind of breaks it up from the background, which is cool. I was gonna see if we could. Oh yeah, I got distracted with the fog. I was gonna add something. Oh. Is that what I think it is? I think this is what. Shadow Catcher might not be what I think it is. I thought that was maybe a way I could add a thingamajig. But you know what I'll do? Duplicate? Thank you. Duplicate. Again, if you don't have that canopy thing, we can just fake it. We'll just find the most interesting part of this thing and make it smaller. Right. I know I'm coming up on time. I'm pretty much done, but just to get that one last little thing to make it feel like branches are in the way. Right, that was kind of the idea of creating a shadow catcher. And a little bit. There, now he's got some, you know, branches or something kind of hanging out. I missed his face by a little bit, but I'll probably just try to scoot that over at some point. Which way? Oh, there we go. There we go. Move it over. And there you go. Render. Yay! And then you would render this out, and then you could, you know, do like a cool little pass over and, you know, up the contrast on just his face and things like that to get him, you know, looking a little cleaner and you know, kind of focus in on his face details and things like that. But yeah, there you go. And now our little bat friend is hanging out in the woods. So there you go. All right, we are at time, you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching and joining me. It was super fun. Thank you for all the questions. I'm sorry if I didn't answer all of them. There was a lot this time, so you guys are awesome. That always helps pass the time by in really fun ways, so I appreciate it. Catch us next week. We'll be starting a new one. I think we might be doing something a little Halloween themed, which could be cool. Maybe a little surprises, so you definitely don't want to miss next week. Should be fun. And yeah, signing off. Thanks, guys. I'll catch you later. Bye.